All right, so I'm done practicing. I put this on because my headphones were messing up my hair. But I have three takeaways from today. Again, first one is don't practice distracted. That is just something that I have realized now, and I've realized before, but it just happened a lot today. Having a dog that needs a lot of attention, that just really throws off your momentum while you're practicing. So just make sure that whenever you're practicing, you're in a quiet place that is yours and that you can practice all the ways that you need to, where you're not going to annoy anybody else and you're not going to have to worry about someone talking to you or distracting you. Number two is this is more of a personal one, but more days is better than more minutes when it comes to practicing. So the more days you practice back to back to back, the more that you get a routine and it starts to get that muscle memory. If you're practicing for like 2 hours in one day and skip away a bunch of days and then practice it for like another 2 hours, I'm not saying that that 2 hour practice will be bad, but this will be better for you for forming good habits and learning things. Um, and that's just backed by a lot of education research, but that's also just happening with me right now in these shorter, like 1 hour practice sessions. I feel like I'm getting a lot more done over 2 days of 1 hour than one day with 2 hours. And I think that will just continue to get better. And then lastly, set goals. That's a really important one because sometimes it's hard to know when you're done practicing or whenever you feel like, yep, I've accomplished what I want to accomplish for today. As teachers, we'll try to give you some different goals to have, like try to get this at 70 BPM by this week. But there's a lot of time between this lesson and the next week's lesson. And so you'll need to set daily goals for yourself. So if you're playing something at, like, if I want you to play it at 120 BPM and you're playing it at 70 right now, say, all right, by tomorrow, play at 80, 90, 100, and then, just keep on moving up until you get to there. You don't have to go for the moon and then just get discouraged when you don't reach it. Just set daily goals for each of your practice sessions, and you'll be able to achieve those goals and know, yeah, I actually accomplished something today. Hello, this is Mr. David. This is my second day practice challenge. I'm at home right now, so this is going to look a little bit different. I don't have a speaker that these can really come out of, so you're just going to hear. And it sounds cool here, but you guys won't be able to hear it. But it's okay. You can still kind of see what I'm doing, and I'll still talk about it. But let's get into it. I'm going to start with my warm up. All right, I just played through the warm up a couple times. Way easier today than it was yesterday, and part of that is because I did a lot yesterday using that swing pattern, and so I think that it's like getting back into my hands. That muscle memory is coming back, and it's getting a lot easier to separate my right hand and my left hand. That was the thing that I was having so much trouble with yesterday, and now it's starting to actually be more independent. So I did notice with this one, the faster I'm pushing it, that it's actually getting a little bit easier. And I think that's because I've gotten used to playing it slow. I'm able to kind of make this ride pattern, that's becoming a lot more natural and automatic for me instead of me having to think about it the whole time while I'm playing it. So it's making it easier to push it a little bit faster. It makes the snare drum notes a little bit easier to find. One thing I did notice, however, is that whenever I'm playing with a metronome, it's a lot harder because, I mean, it's a lot easier for me because I'm able to kind of interpret those triplets as I want. But when I play along with the recording, I'm realizing I'm making my triplets too scrunched together instead of spread out. So in lessons, a lot of times I talk about being in the pocket. That applies a lot to playing this kind of music because it's easy to play da 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 da, but whenever you're doing da 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 da, it's easy to make it dun da dun da dun da dun da dun, and it's like getting less like a triplet sound and more like a dun 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 dun, more like an eighth note sound. So that's just something to think about while I'm practicing this. I'm gonna move on to the actual exercise now and see how it's feeling today. Before I get into practicing the actual exercise, I want to talk about this electric drum set. So this one right here is a Roland drum set. The sounds are really, really high quality. It has all these mesh heads. It actually has a real pad that the kick drum hits. The only thing about electric drum sets, and I'll say this to all my students, is that this hi-hat pedal is not actually closing. Like, it moves, but it's not making the closing sound in my ears, so my hi-hat always sounds open. And that has been the biggest struggle practicing at home, is that my pedal is not doing the close on beats 2 and 4 like my exercise from yesterday. And that's really important for this jazz music, to have that closing on 2 and 4, because it's acting like the snare drum in most music. And since the snare drum is improvising, I really am missing that 2 and 4 sound. So I'm just trying to adapt and make sure that I'm still just staying with the beat, still listening to the metronome, but that is making it a lot harder. I'm just stomping on it as hard as I can, and it's still not working. So I need to replace my hi-hat pedal is the main thing, I guess I'm trying to say. But anyway, on to practicing. As our teacher Sergio mentioned, I should have kept the door closed because now I have a distraction. This dog is a distraction. And so it kind of threw off my groove a little bit. So that's a really thing to keep in mind, is if you're at a house that has multiple people in it, pets, anything like that, it's always good to keep a door closed somewhere where you can practice in private, because it can really mess up your momentum that you're building if you're practicing a lot. So just keep that in mind. That was my bad. As I'm nearing the end of my practice time, these exercises are way easier than they were yesterday, and there's a couple of reasons why that I want to talk about. One is I circled the ones that I had a hard time with yesterday, and then I went back and worked on those ones extra today. And so they were a little bit easier today just because it's a new day. Sometimes our body just needs that reset to be able to look at something with a new point of view. But also, I was able to focus my energy more on those. And then when I went through the whole exercise, it just came to me because I practiced those ones. Another thing, too, is that I was able to push the tempo even more on that exercise today. I'm feeling a lot more comfortable adding in these left-hand hits and right-hand hits and making sure that they're separate. I'm still having a lot of trouble whenever I have to go back and forth with the ride and the snare, doing that kind of thing. It can just throw me off sometimes, but now that I've practiced it a bunch of times, I'm starting to recognize whenever something is coming up that has that kind of pattern. I can see what it looks like. It usually will look like a quarter note on beat 2 and then 2/8 notes on beat 3. And so that's whenever I'm going to go da ja da ja 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 da ja. That's kind of how that part works. That was really official drum language right there too, but you know what I mean. So the more that you practice, the more that you can recognize those hard things as they're popping up. But yeah, it's going really, really well. I'm going to practice for a couple more minutes, and then I'm going to do kind of like a cool down, jam out, just to make sure that I'm ending on a good note and not a frustrated note, because I'm having a feeling the faster I push this, the harder it's going to be. But anyway, I'll get back to you after I'm done. Anyway, that is my day 2 of practice. I'll see you tomorrow.